All right, so get this. You guys sent us this interview with Justin Welsh, and this guy's built a one-person business, but like really crushed it. And
Yeah, and you want to know how he did it right.
yeah, exactly.
That's our mission for this deep dive.
Totally.
Digesting all this awesome material
Yeah.
and figuring out how you can apply it.
Yeah, pull out those golden nuggets, the stuff you can actually use.
Totally. And I got to say, this is some really juicy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like, some rah-rah motivational stuff.
Yeah.
This guy, Justin, built a business that made over $5 million
Wow.
with a 92% profit margin.
Seriously. 5 million. That's insane.
Yeah, you read that right, and that's not all. He's also got this massive following online.
Oh, yeah. I saw that almost 500,000 on LinkedIn, right?
490,000 on LinkedIn, and over 450,000 on Twitter.
Wow.
Oh, and get this, over 600 million impressions online in just the last 4 years.
That's wild.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. And what's really fascinating is that he didn't just become an overnight success using that typical hustle harder strategy.
Right.
He actually spent years, scrambling and flailing, he calls it, before he actually found what worked.
Okay. That's actually kind of refreshing to hear,
Right.
It wasn't just like, boom, overnight success. He had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Make mistakes,
Days later.
learn and grow. I mean, honestly, that's kind of encouraging to me.
Yeah, totally.
Makes it seem a little more doable, like maybe
Right.
us regular folks can actually pull this off too.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that success is often more about, trial and error,
Yeah,
refining your approach over time, and less about some magical formula.
definitely. So don't freak out if you're not seeing results right away.
Exactly.
Just keep plugging away.
Right. So what we're going to do today is try to pull out those core principles that helped him along the way.
Okay, love it.
Things like, building a safety net before quitting your job.
Yeah, that's huge.
The power of feedback and how to stand out in a crowded market.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I love these deep dives. We get to go beyond just the surface level stuff, and really dig into the why behind someone's success.
Totally.
So let's start with the safety net. Justin's really big on this. He says you need to be making like 60 to 70% of your current income with your side hustle before you even think about quitting your job.
And on the surface, that might sound like pretty standard financial advice.
Yeah, sure.
But think about it in the context of being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Especially as a solopreneur. Having that financial buffer isn't just about, paying your bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's about buying freedom. Freedom to experiment, to take risks, to invest in your business without, that constant pressure of, oh my God, do I have enough money to survive?
I hear ya. It's like if you're constantly stressing about how to make rent, it's going to be pretty hard to focus on building something long-term.
Exactly. You'll be stuck in survival mode all the time.
Right. Just trying to keep your head above water.
Exactly. And that could really stifle your creativity and lead to, short-sighted decisions.
Yeah, I can see that happening for sure. So this cushion allows you to actually play the long game.
Totally.
You can build something sustainable without constantly feeling like you're one bad month away from disaster.
Exactly. And that peace of mind is priceless.
Totally. So what do you think about this idea of a safety net? How does that resonate with where you are right now?
Yeah, think about your own situation. Would that percentage work for you?
Or do you feel like you'd need more or less of a safety net?
Yeah, it's a really personal decision, but definitely something to really consider.
Totally.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
Uh-huh.
It really depends on your individual, risk tolerance, financial obligations goals.
Okay, so we talked about the safety net. Now let's move on to something that Justin is, kind of obsessed with.
Oh, yeah.
Feedback. And not just collecting feedback, but actually digging into it and
Right.
using it to shape what he offers.
He's not afraid to completely revamp something based on what he's hearing from his audience.
Really?
Yeah, a great example of this is his Creator MBA course.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah. What he originally planned to include and what his audience actually wanted ended up being completely different.
He actually listened to them and made changes based on what they said.
Yeah, he really took it to heart.
That's awesome.
It wasn't just a, oh, thanks for the idea kind of thing.
Right.
He actually incorporated that feedback into the core of what he was creating.
And this is where the concept of a minimum viable product comes in, right? That MVP thing?
Exactly. It's about putting something out there that's, good enough to get started gathering feedback.
Yeah.
And then iterating, continuously improving based on what you learn.
So ditch the perfectionism, get something out there,
Okay.
learn from your audience, and then make it better.
Yep. It's a much more agile and responsive approach.
For sure, especially in the online business world, things move so fast.
Totally. So think about your own projects.
Hmm.
Are you actually seeking out feedback? And even more importantly, are you using it to iterate and improve what you're doing?
Because sometimes we think we know what our audience wants,
Right.
but it's not until we actually ask and really listen that we truly understand their needs and desires.
And it can be a humbling experience.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so incredibly valuable.
Okay, so let's get into why some creators just don't make it. Justin outlines these 7 key pitfalls, and I think they're really worth paying attention to.
Yeah, he starts by talking about the importance of having a clearly defined intended outcome for your audience.
Right, so it's not enough to just create content or offer a service. You need to know exactly what transformation you're helping people achieve.
Right. It's about impact, not just information.
What specific change are you helping people make in their lives or businesses?
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the importance of teaching a framework.
Okay.
A system that people can replicate, not just sharing random anecdotes or stories.
Right, so it's not about just giving someone a fish.
Right.
It's about teaching them how to fish. Exactly. It's about empowering them to succeed on their own.
That's so important. And he also cautions against getting too caught up in appearing super professional.
Yeah, sometimes that can actually backfire.
Right. It can come across as stiff and inauthentic.
Exactly. People connect with realness, vulnerability.
Right. People can spot a fake a mile away.
Absolutely. Authenticity builds trust, and trust is everything in business.
Couldn't agree more.
He also warns against content that's all anecdote and no substance.
Right. It needs to be practical and actionable.
Exactly.
Something people can actually implement in their lives.
Give them the steps, the strategies, the how-tos that they can take and apply.
Don't just tell them stories.
Right.
Show them how it's done.
Exactly. And he also talks about the danger of unrealistic expectations,
Well, yeah.
both for the creator and the audience.
Right.
It's about setting achievable goals and understanding that success is often a slow and steady climb.
It's not an overnight explosion.
Right.
Patience is key.
Absolutely.
Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. That's such a good point.
Right.
His final point is about driving action within your course or program.
Okay.
It's not enough to just deliver information.
Right.
You need to inspire and equip your audience to take action and actually implement what they've learned.
Yeah, because information without action is just, more clutter in their brains.
Exactly.
It's about bridging that gap between knowing and doing.
And this is where I think Justin's background in sales really comes into play.
Interesting.
He understands that information alone doesn't create results.
Right.
It's the action taken based on that information that leads to transformation.
So it's not enough to be informative. You need to be inspirational.
Right.
You need to motivate people to actually use what you're teaching them.
Exactly. And that brings us to another critical element of Justin's success, standing out in a crowded market.
Right, because there's a lot of noise out there.
So much noise.
How do you cut through it?
Exactly. Well, he has this really interesting 4-step process for developing what's called a unique value proposition, or UVP.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's basically what makes you different, what makes you stand out from the crowd.
It's like your secret sauce, right? The thing that makes people choose you over everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about defining not just what you do, but who you do it for, why you do it differently, and what makes your approach unique.
Okay, I like it. So break it down for us. What are those 4 steps?
So first you start with a clear value statement.
Okay.
Who are you helping? What problem are you solving? And what outcome can people expect?
Got it. So it's about being crystal clear on the value you provide.
Exactly. Then he dives into customer pain points and objections.
What are the fears, doubts, and hesitations that your ideal customer has? What's holding them back?
Exactly. It's about getting into their heads, understanding their struggles,
Yeah.
and speaking directly to their needs and concerns.
I like it. So you're not just talking at them.
Right.
You're actually addressing their specific pain points.
Right next, he paints a picture of the preferred future state.
Oh, I like that.
Imagine your customer has achieved their desired outcome.
Okay.
How would they describe that experience? What would their life look like?
It's like giving them a glimpse of what's possible, showing them the transformation they can achieve.
Exactly. And finally, he brings in the concept of movement statement.
Movement statement. Okay.
This is where you position yourself within the broader landscape.
Okay.
What do you stand for? What are you against? Who are you inviting into your tribe?
So it's about creating a sense of belonging,
Right.
of shared values and purpose.
Exactly.
It's about building a community around your brand and what you believe in.
And that's incredibly powerful, especially in today's world, where people are craving connection and authenticity.
So let me ask you this. What are your unique strengths? What sets you apart?
Yeah.
And how can you articulate that in a way that truly resonates with your target audience?
It might take some soul searching and experimentation.
Right.
But uncovering your UVP is essential to building a business that not only attracts customers, but builds a loyal following.
Because in the end, it's not just about selling a product or service. It's about building something that people believe in, something that makes a difference.
And that's what we're going to explore further in the next part of our deep dive into the world of Justin Welsh. You know, one thing that really struck me from this interview with Justin was how much he emphasized passion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not just in like what he does, but how he does it.
Yeah, you're right. Passion kind of gets thrown around a lot in the business world, almost like a cliche.
It does, doesn't it?
But when Justin talks about it, it feels different.
It does. It feels more real.
Yeah, it's less about find your passion and more about designing a business that actually like fuels your passion.
Yes.
Rather than drains it, you know.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
He talks about being very intentional about structuring his business to align with his values and priorities.
Like giving himself permission to actually enjoy the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, he really prioritizes spending time with his family.
Good for him.
And focuses on work that he genuinely finds enjoyable.
That makes sense.
He even tries to minimize tasks that he finds draining, even if they're, considered essential by some people for business growth.
I mean, that's pretty radical, honestly.
It is a little bit, isn't it?
Like, how many of us feel obligated to do things in our businesses that we just dread?
Right, like it's just part of the deal.
But Justin's like, no, if it's not working for me, I'm going to find a different way.
Exactly. And it's a good reminder that we have way more agency than we think.
You do.
Even when we're building a business.
Okay, so this ties back to the whole feedback thing we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's not just about feedback on your product or service. It's about feedback on your whole approach. Like, is this business model actually working for me?
Yeah.
Am I happy?
Are you enjoying the journey?
Those are important questions to ask.
He talks about it like having this ongoing dialogue with himself and with his audience.
I see.
He's constantly asking questions, listening to the responses, and then adjusting his approach based on what he learns.
That's cool. So it's less about following some rigid blueprint. Yeah.
And more about adapting and evolving as you go based on what you're experiencing and what you're hearing from the people you're serving.
Exactly. And that kind of leads into another theme that really resonated with me, this whole idea of the ethics of success.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Justin really believes in building a movement without resorting to negativity or like tearing other people down.
And that's something we could all learn from, for sure.
I think so, too.
Because the online business world could be pretty cutthroat, let's be honest.
It can be. There's a lot of competition.
Right, and there's so much pressure to stand out.
Exactly.
And sometimes that leads to people, stepping on others to get to the top.
But Justin's showing that you can be wildly successful without compromising your values.
It's inspiring.
He talks about the importance of lifting others up, promoting collaboration.
Yeah.
Creating a positive and supportive community.
He even uses this really cool concept called padded words. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. It's about choosing language that's more inclusive and less absolute. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Instead of saying, this is the only way to do it, he might say, this is one approach that's worked for me, and it might be worth exploring for you too.
So it's like taking the edge off.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that there are many paths to success.
Right.
And that what works for one person might not work for another.
And that humility.
Yeah.
That willingness to say, hey, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
It is. It's inviting.
Yeah.
It creates a space for dialogue and collaboration.
Which ultimately leads to a stronger and more sustainable community.
And it all ties back to personal branding.
Right.
When you lead with authenticity and integrity, people can sense that.
They can feel it.
They're more likely to trust you and want to follow you.
It's not about putting on a show or pretending to be someone you're not.
Right. Be yourself, warts and all.
Let your true self shine through.
So let's talk about AI for a minute.
Okay.
It's everywhere these days, right?
It is. It's a hot topic.
And I was really curious to hear Justin's take on it, especially since AI is changing the game in so many industries, including online business.
Yeah, he has some interesting thoughts about how to use it effectively, but also cautiously.
Okay, so he sees it as a tool.
He does.
But he's also aware of its limitations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to writing.
Interesting.
He'll use AI strategically for certain tasks. like developing agendas or anticipating potential objections.
Okay.
But he's not about to let AI write his content.
He draws a line there.
He does. He actually says he gets a little lazy when he relies on AI-generated writing too much.
He loses that human touch.
Exactly. He says it stifles his creativity and kind of dulls that spark that makes his content resonate with people. AI can generate text, but it can't replicate those nuances of human experience.
Right.
The emotions, the personal insights that really make a piece of writing connect with an audience.
So it's all about using AI to enhance your work, not replace your unique voice and perspective.
It's about finding that balance, using AI as a tool to support your creativity, not as a crutch.
You know, one thing that really surprised me was Justin's initial resistance to building an online community.
Oh, really?
I know you would think with his massive following, it would be a no-brainer.
You would think so, right?
But he actually pushed back against it for quite a while.
Interesting. Why was that?
He felt like it would be too demanding of his time and energy.
I can see that.
And that it wouldn't fit with his desire for, you know, that independent solopreneur lifestyle.
And a lot of people feel that way about online community.
They do.
They can be a lot to manage.
Right. It's easy to get sucked into that vortex of constantly having to be online.
And engaging and moderating.
But here's the thing. Justin eventually realized that he was approaching it from the wrong perspective.
Oh, how so?
He was thinking about what he wanted rather than what his audience was asking for.
That's a common trap.
Isn't it? We get so caught up in what should I be doing that we lose sight of what truly matters.
It's easy to do. So what happened?
So he scrapped his initial approach and started from scratch.
Wow.
This time, focusing on what his audience was actually requesting.
Interesting. So what were they asking for?
What he heard was that they wanted a space to connect with each other, to ask questions, to share their wins and challenges,
Yeah.
and to feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves.
It wasn't about him being the center of attention.
Exactly. They wanted a place where they could support and learn from each other.
That's a powerful insight, I think.
It is.
It really challenges that whole assumption that the creator needs to be the focal point of every online community.
And it opens up so many possibilities.
It does.
For building communities that are more collaborative
Less hierarchical.
and ultimately more sustainable for everyone involved.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels empowered to contribute and connect.
Where the focus is on shared learning and growth.
Rather than, just hero worship. Okay, so let's talk about another topic that's often really confusing for people: pricing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Justin was very open about his journey with figuring out how to price his products and services.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough, right?
It is.
Charge too little and you're undervaluing yourself.
Right.
Charge too much and you might scare people away.
So how did he approach it?
Well, he talked about how he started out pricing his first course really low, just $50.
Wow, that's low.
I know his goal was to just exceed his customers' expectations and generate positive word of mouth.
That classic under-promise, over-deliver strategy.
Exactly. Create an amazing experience that makes people feel like they got a steal.
And did it work?
It did. And as he gained experience and built his reputation, he gradually increased his prices.
Makes sense.
Always focusing on making sure that the value he provided was way higher than the cost.
So he's always aiming to over-deliver.
Always. He talked about how his more recent courses, which are much more in-depth, are priced in the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
But he still aims to deliver thousands of dollars worth of value.
Wow.
And then he has a high-end one-on-one coaching program that's priced at several $1,000s.
Okay, so he has different tiers,
Right.
catering to different levels of investment and commitment.
It's a smart strategy.
And he was very clear that pricing is a journey.
Yeah.
It's okay to start small and gradually increase your prices as you gain experience.
Build your brand.
Refine your offerings.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you're being fairly compensated for your expertise and the value you provide.
But also making it accessible to the right people.
And what I really appreciated was Justin's transparency about money.
Yeah, he's not afraid to talk about it.
Which is something that a lot of people shy away from.
For sure.
But it's so important to be open about money, especially in business.
Absolutely. It's about valuing your work and knowing what you're worth.
Before we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
Okay.
I want to go back to something Justin said that really stuck with me.
Okay, what was that?
He said, "Nobody's coming to save you."
Ooh, that's powerful.
Right.
It really gets to the heart of being a solopreneur.
It's about taking ownership of your journey, embracing the challenges,
Right.
and knowing that ultimately your success depends on you.
He's had his share of setbacks and failures, just like anyone who's ever tried to build something from scratch.
Oh, yeah. He talked about getting fired from jobs, struggling financially, even facing health challenges.
Wow, so he's been through it.
He has. But what's so inspiring is his ability to learn from those experiences,
Right.
to dust himself off and keep moving forward.
He emphasizes that each of those experiences, as tough as they were, actually made him stronger and more resilient.
It's a good reminder that failure isn't the end.
It's not.
It's often just a detour on the road to success.
It's about developing that inner strength and resourcefulness to navigate those challenges.
And bounce back from adversity.
And that's a lesson that applies to all of us, not just solopreneurs.
We all face challenges in life.
We do.
It's how we respond to them that defines us.
So think about your own journey. What are some of the challenges you've faced that have forced you to dig deep?
And rely on your own strength.
What lessons have you learned about resilience and self-reliance?
Because those are the lessons that will stay with you long after this deep dive is over.
We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our exploration of Justin Welsh's incredible journey.
So, one thing that really stands out about Justin is he's not afraid to challenge the status quo,
Yeah, that's true. He definitely has his own way of doing things.
And I think one of the biggest ways he does that is by embracing a slower, more intentional approach to building his business.
Right. He doesn't buy in all that hype about going viral and getting overnight success.
Yeah, in a world that's obsessed with instant everything, Justin's story is almost like a counter narrative.
It is. He talks about spending years experimenting, iterating, refining his approach.
Didn't just explode onto the scene. He built his audience and his business slowly and steadily.
Yeah, brick by brick.
And what's cool is he doesn't see this as a disadvantage.
Right. He actually sees it as a strength.
He talks about how this slower pace actually allowed him to build a more solid foundation,
Totally. To really understand his audience.
To create something that would last.
Yeah. Instead of just chasing trends or, trying to be the next big thing.
It's like he's playing a different game.
He is.
He's not trying to win the sprint. He's in it for the marathon.
Exactly. And, I think that resonates with a lot of what we're seeing now.
Really?
Yeah. People are starting to realize that, that whole hustle harder mentality can lead to burnout.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that sustainable success is really built on, intentionality balance, a long-term perspective.
It's like shifting your mindset from constantly pushing and striving to creating a business that actually supports your well-being.
Exactly. A business that allows you to live a life you love.
Which is what it's all about, right? And, it's not always easy to resist that pressure to move fast and scale quickly.
Especially when you see other people, getting those quick wins.
Yeah. But Justin's story is a good reminder that sometimes that slower, less glamorous path is actually the more fulfilling and sustainable one.
It is.
So next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by that pressure to, keep up, remember Justin's approach.
Right.
It's okay to slow down, focus on building something solid and meaningful, even if it takes a little longer.
And slowing down doesn't have to mean sacrificing growth.
That's a good point.
When you're really clear on your vision, your values, your goals, you can make much more strategic decisions.
Yeah.
You can avoid wasting time on things that don't really matter.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Oh.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought, something to ponder.
Okay, I'm listening.
Justin's story reminds us that success doesn't always look like we expect it to.
That's true.
It's not always about instant gratification, massive scale overnight fame.
Sometimes it's about taking that less traveled path,
Yeah.
Building something with intention and integrity.
Creating a life that really aligns with your values and priorities.
So what does sustainable success look like for you? What are you willing to slow down for? And how can you build a business and a life that you're really proud of?
Not just today, but for years to come.
That's all for our deep dive into the world of Justin Welsh. We hope you found these insights valuable and that they'll spark some new ideas for your own entrepreneurial journey.
Remember, the most important thing is to find what works for you, stay true to yourself,
and keep learning and growing along the way.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep diving deep.
So that was today's episode of my Side Hustle Weekend podcast. For everyone listening, if you're ready to take action on what you learned today, here's where you can find more resources. First, head over to sidehustleweekend.com. I've put together detailed guides, templates, and case studies. And while you are there, Don't miss out on my free newsletter, Side Hustle Weekend. If you found value in today's discussion, hit that like button and subscribe to join our Weekend Hustlers community. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our episodes where we break down more side hustle strategies. Check the description below for all the tools and resources we mentioned today. Remember, everyone's journey starts with a single step. Whether you're looking to make an extra $500 a month or build something bigger, start with what you learned today and take action. So, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode where we'll break down another practical way to grow your income.